from MicrobeTV. This is Office Hours. Today's Wednesday, March 11, 2026. I'm Vincent Racaniello, and welcome to your viral corner of the internet, where you can talk about viruses or whatever else you'd like. But of course, viruses are my specialty, having worked on them for 45 years and done research. I know some things. I think I'm an expert. I am an expert in the field of virology. And even though some people say expertise is not valued, they're liars. It's because they want you to listen to them and they don't know anything. They're lawyers who don't know any science or other things. Anyway, you can come here and chat with me for 2 hours every week. I'll try and answer your questions. I'll give you mini lectures, give you some quizzes, and read some poetry as well. So welcome, everybody, and welcome to our moderators. Let's see who's here. Vanity Nutrition, thank you so much for coming to moderate. Good to have you. Tom Steinberg is here. That's it for now. I'm going to give you a quiz. I put the quiz up already, but we're not ready to take it yet. So, if you know the answer, don't tell us. Just keep it there, and we'll do it later. But today I have, a little quiz, and I have a mini lecture and a poem for all of you. But tell us where you are from. I'll shout you out. Brian is in Knoxville, 73F22C, expecting storms. Winnie the Pooh would say it's a blustery day. The weekly dose of sanity. That's a nice way to put it. I really like that. What's the weather here? It's been incredibly warm. It's 20C right now. 20C, which is 68F, right? That's an easy one. It's going to rain a little bit, but it's funny that Friday it's supposed to go below freezing again. It's really too warm for this time of year in the Northeast, but I'll take it. Hello, Kip. Thank you for your contribution to science communication. Really appreciate it. Kip was supposed to visit the incubator today. Apparently he knocked on the door and no one answered. I'm sorry, Kip. Actually, I went to the bathroom 3 times today. I don't know why. TMI, I know. But I was probably there one of the times. And Valerie probably was in her office and didn't hear it. I'm sorry about that. Is there another time you could come by? Yeah, you can come by Friday. So Friday is usually TWIV prep time, but I've already read one of the papers, so I have less prep time. And so you can come, any time after 11. I have to start TWIV at 3, and I do need a little time, but you can come for an hour or so. That'll be fine. That's tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. That's Friday, the 13th. All right. Walrus is in Liverpool, 7C and midnight. Welcome, Walrus Gumboot. Walrus Gumboot 99. Kang is in Chicago, 3C, but it seems colder on a rainy afternoon. Tom is in the Oregon Coast Range, misty rain with some wind. It's spring. MN, good evening and welcome. Aurelian, thanks for coming. Hi from Vancouver. Reading the book, Our Bodies, Our Planet, A Parasite's History of Us by Marcus Hall. A well-trained parasitologist can find 50 different parasites on a single person. You don't even have to try to get 50. Kang was asked by a nurse during my checkup, are you experiencing depression or anxiety? With a smile, I said, you've got to be kidding. I think everybody is, except the 30% that support this administration. Vanity is here, and she's happy it's Wednesday. Will is in Changsha, where it is 12 degrees C. Mike is in Seattle, where it's 11C. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm shouting because I'm looking at my levels. Pete is here in the UK, and he even finessed the hour change that we made, but we didn't in Europe. So now it's 8 p.m., but it's actually 7 p.m. because we sprang our clocks forward, right? And so it'll be a little easier for our European friends to reach us, right? European, Russia, all those countries, China. Sandra, hello. CDMX 25C. According to Pete, it is 7C, a bit cold and windy in London, but 65% of our electricity generation is by wind at midnight. That's a cool app to have. Speaking of electricity, I think all of you remember 3 Mile Island, right? I mean, that was my ute. The thing going critical, and right, it's a nuclear reactor in Pennsylvania, and they shut it down. And did you know that Microsoft turned it on? They built a data center right next to it. They turned it on. They have a 20-year lease on it, and they're going to use all the power from it. It's amazing. And people are using nuclear reactors all over the place to do that. These data centers where they train LLMs, huge power consumption, way more than a regular data center, like a Google data center. Way more. Incredible. Some of them are more than a small nation in energy consumption. But I didn't know that about 3 Mile Island. That's amazing. People shy away from nuclear power here in the U.S. because there were some incidents. But now the shyness doesn't matter anymore because you need power, right? Oh, my gosh. Vanity writes, the weather has been insane. Tornadoes yesterday from Texas to Illinois. My flight from Denver to JFK was very turbulent. Very turbulent, the whole flight. I think that's funny to say very turbulent. I would just say turbulent, right? Turbulent is pretty bad. Did everyone have to stay seated? Flight attendants, please take your seats. Please stop your service. Sorry, folks. I've asked the flight attendants to stop the service because it's too bumpy. Vanity writes, Zachary Rubin, MD, shared a post about how Joe Rogan referenced a Brady Bunch episode as evidence that measles isn't that bad. What a moron. He's just a dumbass. I'm sorry. Brady Bunch is not scientific evidence. He could get me on and I could do the litany of all the things that happened. Or he could get Daniel Griffin. Or he could get both of us. Uba Luby, hello, welcome. Little Rock, Arkansas has been rainy, muggy with a high of 21C and a low of 4C. And threatening tornadoes. There you go. There you go. Quiz number 1 is humbling me. My brain is full of soup. Well, just stay tight. We'll get to it. As soon as I introduce people, we'll do the quiz first, okay? Visto is in Sydney, 26C, but gray. I said hi here. I don't know why. I don't know why I said hi. Who was I saying hi to? I usually say at someone. EHS Talent. Warm rain in the Lehigh Valley. Welcome. IFS, IF Specialist. Beaming in from Madawaska, Maine, where it's minus 5C with heavy snow. Holy cow. I mean, Maine isn't that far away from me. Minus 5 with heavy snow. WRD writes, Joe Rogan also bragged about taking ivermectin to recover from COVID. Yeah, well, the ivermectin didn't do anything, okay? He just recovered on his own, but he doesn't understand causality versus association. I wouldn't expect him to. Will writes, just finished the ghost map about Jon Snow's deduction that cholera came from water rather than bad air. RFK Jr. wants to take us back 175 years. Totally correct. He's into miasma. That sounds weird. It sounds weird, miasma. I should say miasma. That's better. Miasma. Let's see what else you should read. You like these books that read quickly, I guess, and inform you, right? Books here, but I don't know which one I should recommend you. Maybe you'd like this one. This is by Peter Doherty, The Beginner's Guide to Winning the Nobel Prize. He's a scientist down in Australia. I had him on TWIV once. It's pretty lighthearted. Okay, Will's here. Rita, good evening from cloudy Idaho. Welcome. Hello, Les. Welcome. Our moderator. Warm day today in D.C. Yes, I think you're an expert in viruses. I don't know everything, but I know a lot, and I know where to look it up, and I can deduce. That's the thing, right? One of my students Monday in class said, Professor, when's the last time you got nervous speaking in front of people? And I said, a long time ago, probably in 1980s, when I first started at Columbia. I was a little nervous. I would give talks, and I would be nervous about presenting my data, and there are lots of experts in the room, right? But I said, I just kept doing it, and more, the more I did it, and I like it. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I like teaching. I like giving talks. I like standing in front of people and getting their attention and informing them and doing it in a good way, right? Now, and because a lot of scientists I know are horrible teachers. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So in many research universities and colleges, courses are team taught, right? Especially universities that are run by labs that have R01s, NIH grants, right? Because people don't have time to teach a whole course. In undergraduate colleges, when the school pays your salary, then you could teach a whole course. But anyway, so they're team taught, and you get such unevenness. Some people are really good, and some people suck. So that's why when I started this course at Columbia about 12 years ago, my virology course, I said, I'm going to teach it myself. Because I know exactly what I want them to know. And I had some guest lecturers over the years. I even had Dixon one year. He was tremendous. But, the others are not doing what I want to do. So now I just teach it myself. And I love it. Rona, hello from Long Island. It's 53 degrees, not too bad. Mark is in San Jose, 74F, ending a sunny day. Brian, 3 degrees C and cloudy in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Lagotic, Chicago, 2 degrees C and rather wet. Nevitz. Once Reagan came in 1981 with libertarianism and rugged individualism. It's been downhill since where everyone, well, he's this cowboy thing, right? You can do whatever you want. To hell with the laws. Barb tries. Hello, Barb tries. Durham, North Carolina, 27C. It was 87F today. Wow, wow, wow. John is in Minneapolis, where it's 3C. Getting closer to being in Minneapolis for ASV, John. That should be cool. P.S. Satawi is in Bangkok, Thailand, 23C with light wind. Jeff is in Elgin, Illinois, 37F. Overcast after a bit of snow. Marg Rowe is in the Midlands, UK. And hello, Mr. Doreen from Elgin, Illinois. Back to more seasonal temps, 3C and cloudy and rainy. Visto, I hear news there's a new CDC head. I don't know the new person. Well, they're not going to be any good, I tell you. This uh, administration has only people who are unqualified for this position. Let's look it up. I don't have any new CDC, just the acting. But it could be that you get some news down under that we don't get. I wouldn't doubt it. Otto Botodogo, hello from sunny and slightly chilly Manitoba, Canada, -9°C today. Cold snap this weekend, -25°C, then whiplashing to +5 by next week. Hello, Rainy. Nice to have you. Microbio is in Elgin 3C. Just finished giving my first virology unit lecture. The rise of polio after sanitation was a topic. Eliza is in Southern Ontario 3C. Really enjoyed the latest episode of Rasmussen Retorts. That was about Casey Means. Yep. Elizabeth is in West Virginia. Hello. Les writes, Roald Dahl lost his precious, healthy daughter to measles and wrote this letter. Oh, I did never know that. I'm going to have to check it out later. Yes, Friday the 13th. It is. Jamie, -1°C and wet snow earlier when I was in class at UW-Madison. Warmed up a bit coming home. Hello, Cheryl from Santa Rosa, 74F, bright and sunny. Pete writes, in 1977, France planned a fast breeder reactor at Malville. I went to the 50,000-strong demonstration. One dead by the riot police. It got built and since decommissioned as a failure. Why was it a failure? What happened? It didn't put out enough power? Hello, Maureen from Northeast Ohio, where it's rainy. Yes, Rogan is stupid. Although he knows how to be popular, right? But he is stupid. I wonder if he knows he's stupid. The Elgin cohort is in the chat. Yes, we have a bunch of Elgin people tonight. In my opinion, Barb Tries writes, Rogan is so stupid. I don't get how so many people follow him. Well, that's the problem with the U.S. right now, right? People are into this stupidity. Anything goes. I don't get it. I mean, I grew up in an era of logic, pretty much. Not perfect either. Leo is in Mendocino. Weather clear and cool. Hope you're feeling good. But Rogan has a large audience of similarly intelligent people who consider alternative views worthwhile and respected. So why would they go to him? Why would they go to him? He has no critical thinking ability. He gets a guest. He doesn't even know what to ask them. He can't follow up because he doesn't know anything. If you want to have an alternative view, at least have an intelligent interviewer. But in my opinion, some alternative views are just not worth hearing. Like the alternative view that infectious diseases are caused by miasma, and the alternative view that vaccines cause chronic diseases, and multiple others. I'm sorry. Nobody that says that crap is getting on my programs. I don't care if they bring 1 million people. Not happening. Walrus, speaking of nuclear, I've gone down the Heisenberg versus Oppenheimer race for the bomb. Lise Meitner had to escape Nazi Germany, right, and then discovered nuclear fission, right. Mo Berg is also involved as a spy. Cool. Yes, I read The Making of the Atomic Bomb last year, and Lise was in it. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Les writes, 1 million people a year die from burning carbon, not even including any climate effects. Burning wood coal is not good for your lungs and heart. Yeah, that's right. So someone here is just hitting the thumb down button, just like continuously. There's 16 thumbs down, which I've never had before. So moderators, find who this is and get rid of them, please. Can I get rid of the thumbs down? Because, that's going to prevent people from seeing this. And whoever's doing it, what's your point? Why are you such a dumbass? Hello, very Nika. Nuclear should be for the people, not for hallucinatory surveillance machines. Energy bills will rise for regular people. Already do. Well, you know what? It's whoever has the money. That's where it goes to, no matter what we think. And well, spring in Moscow is slowly arriving with average 10°C and sunny. Bad for me because I want to skate outside. The thumbs down troll is one of those anti-expert types who listen to Rogan. Okay, fine. You don't agree with me. You don't have to trash the whole stream. Or maybe you get empowered that way because you have nothing else to empower you. Crimson. I used to listen to TWIV in 2013. Love to see Vincent going strong. I'm still here. Yeah, it's 13 years later. Wow. We did TWIV started in 2008, so it's going for a long time. Barb tries my asthma. He takes his health advice directly out of his ass. It's true. It's true. Vincent wrote the book on viruses. I wrote one of the books. There are others. I like mine. I think it's better than the others. Well, it's not just mine. It is a team effort, right? Flint, Rawl, Scalca, Racaniello, Hatsuano. And I think it's a good book. I learn a lot. I think you've become an expert in podcasting. I've become an expert in, recording and making things look and sound good. Yeah. And now most of the tech is done by editors, except this, of course. I set this up myself. But I think you can learn just about anything if you put your mind to it, right? We enjoy listening to you. Thank you so much. I'm glad. Well, I assume you do because you come back every week, although the numbers are dwindling. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I said to my class today, have you ever wondered what is the least number of students I would lecture to? Because it's dwindling. Next week is spring break, right? So the numbers are dwindling because the weather is appealing to just not come to class. And I said, actually, if no one was here, I'd give the lecture because I have to record it. And I'm already here. I've taken the subway here. And I'm just going to record it because what am I going to do? Go back to my office and sit down there and record it this way? I can walk around. So I would record it for no people. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you. If you're calling me kind and professional, I appreciate that because I think that's what everyone should be. I read a great opinion piece the other day about someone saying, the people in the current administration in the U.S. are just not professional. And they say, oh, well, they poo-poo professionalism, like they poo-poo expertise. But professionalism means you care about what you do, right? Look at the fiasco with this dumbass war that nobody knows what they're doing it for. It's costing a fortune. There's no respect for the dead. And it's screwing up the world's economy. And he had no clue that this would happen because they didn't think it through because they're not professionals. Okay, I won't do any more politics, but I'm just saying what professionalism is. Tractor Poodle is in Bangkok, 24°C in my neighborhood. Rained early morning. Martha's in Charleston, South Carolina. where it's 27C today. Hello, John. Thank you for your contribution. Ow, I just banged my foot against the chair to science communication. Really appreciate your support. And many of you are here every week. I appreciate that very much. It's okay that there are only 100 of you. I don't mind. Here's a view of the storms from Vanity's window. You can go to her Instagram reel there. Check it out. Here we have a quote from Isaac Asimov, courtesy of Nevitz. There is a cult of ignorance in the U.S., and there has always been, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. That's true. He's absolutely right about that. And now he is it's truer than ever in this current era. And I don't know what's pushing it, if it's internet based or more than that. I think the internet has a lot to do with it because in the past somebody like Rogan could never get any traction, right? He could never get on a major network, but now he makes his own. So I think that's a big deal. Hello, Area Ozone is in Asheville. We're at 70F. Visto writes, my ignorance is just as valid as your expertise. Okay, it's okay to not know something. Does ignorance mean you just ignore things? I guess that's what the ignore means. Let's look it up. Dictionary, ignorance. No, let's see, dictionary. Lack of knowledge or information. It doesn't really give me a good definition because, there are people who are purposefully ignorant because they don't want to know the truth. I don't know. Kang writes, Reagan gave one useful adage, trust but verify, and we need a lot of verification of members of this administration. I think that's true. Yes. Jeff writes, because his audience, Rogan, consider experts suspect and so listen only to alternative ideas. What's wrong with experts? Again, this is really a back-asswards position, right? Because you depend on experts every minute of the day, okay? The lights are on because of experts at the power plant, right? You go to a doctor, the doctor's an expert. You go to an airplane, the pilots are experts, and the flight attendants are experts, and the mechanics are experts. And you wouldn't want to have a doctor servicing the plane, right? So this whole idea that experts are suspect is just the most outlandish thing ever. It's just back-asswards, folks, and you all know that. Oh my gosh. Holly, hello. Saw your interview with Paul Offit. Very grateful for his courage speaking out about HHS. His secretary, oh yes, he's got a lot of courage. He doesn't pull punches. Nevers writes, when stupidity is considered patriotism, it is unsafe to be intelligent. Listen, I don't know. I have some intelligence, right? Because I've learned a lot of things and I've learned how to figure stuff out. I find it so satisfying to learn stuff and understand stuff. And lately I've been exploring astrophysics and quantum physics. I just love it. I mean, even biological fields that I don't work in, I love finding out how stuff works. Pete writes, AI says fast breeder reactors largely failed to become the dominant nuclear tech due to prohibitive construction and operating costs, severe tech challenges with sodium coolants, and safety concerns. Okay, so I guess 3 Mile Island is not a fast breeder reactor, right? It's just a regular. Let's query this. Is 3 Mile Island a fast breeder reactor? No, it is not. It's a conventional pressurized water reactor, PWR. So in a breeder, they make fuel, right? But in a power reactor, the water is used to cool the core and slow down neutrons. So who has a fast breeder reactor? Russia has a fast breeder reactor, according to a report by the Ministry of Atomic Power. Of course they want a fast breeder. They want to make nuclear fuel. Mark is watching on a MacBook Neo that I picked up today. I traded in my 13-inch iPad Pro from 2018, which developed battery charging length problems 6 weeks ago. I can't help think of The Matrix every time I hear this MacBook Neo. But sounds great. I mean, probably not going to do heavy-duty stuff, but for watching streams. Oh, by the way, we had this discussion on Twiv about how much power data centers take. So the real power consumption is in the training of the LLMs, right? But if you just make a query, it's not a lot of power. But if you stream a movie, it's like 2 to 300 watts. Okay? It's incredible. Here, I made a list of this. Let me see if I can find it. I think this is worth discussing. So here, an AI chat query is 0.3 to 3 watts. A Google search is 0.3 watts. Streaming 1 hour of HD video, 100 to 300 watts. Sending an email, 0.3 to 4 watts. So, of course, that's just an individual user, and the aggregate demand is what makes it difficult. But queries are not as bad as streaming or as bad as training an LLM. It takes up huge amounts of electricity. Anyway, enjoy your Neo. What color did you get? Doreen is in Hartford. Hello. Okay, Pete is continuing about the reactor. While designed to produce more fuel than they consume, the breeders, cheaper, abundant uranium made them economically uncompetitive with conventional light water reactors. Okay. Lagotic. I used to enjoy listening to Rogan talk about boxing and drugs, but good Lord, did he go off the rails in 2020? Was it COVID that did that? Miss Doreen writes, Mr. Doreen, please tell your Doreen my half of the Doreen team is in the house. That's great. Elizabeth writes, thumbs down won't stop people from seeing the video. Engagement is engagement. The algorithm doesn't care. Okay, so I won't worry about it. Yes, trolls exist to be an irritant. Yeah. Uba Luby. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Someone dislikes now. I personally dropped this link to 10 of my friends. Yeah, thank you, Uba Luby. It's very nice. Yeah, trolls exist to be an irritant. I think I already clicked that, but here it is again. I want to study your book. Well, it's a good book. You'll like it. Kang writes, wouldn't any vaccine help to reduce inflammation? Is these anti-aging effect limited to Shingrix? So yes, if a vaccine is preventing infection, it's going to reduce inflammation, right? Yes. Is the effect limited to Shingrix? So in the paper we did, they also looked at flu vaccine and a pneumococcal vaccine. And the way they measure aging, they have a multi-component matrix of stuff, different parameters. And so it affected different things in this aging composite, right? So I think it's really complicated because, they have 7 different domains that all seem to be part of aging. And right, the Shingrix affected 4 of the 7. But how do we know it actually keeps you younger? Right? I don't know that. You need a different kind of experiment to do that. But yeah, in theory, every vaccine should take some edge off aging because it's going to prevent inflammation. Yes, for sure. So John writes, besides Rogan's TV money, he got rich selling off unregulated supplements. So he's been rewarded for bucking the slow pace of real medicine. Yeah, these guys all sell supplements. So does Casey Means, right? She has a company that sells supplements. Someone wrote to me and said I was too hard on her. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, I was not too hard. You cannot be the Surgeon General if you are, well, first of all, she's not licensed, and she's selling supplements. She doesn't believe in what doctors do. You're entitled to that belief, but you can't be the Surgeon General of the U.S. No, sorry. We know that doesn't work. Rogan also calls mixed martial arts chess, and that makes some ooh and ah. Okay, fine. Nevitz, topic idea. Quantum magazine, did viruses create the nucleus? The answer may be near. An unorthodox symbiotic theory about the origin of eukaryotes' defining characteristics may soon be put to the test. Did they create the nucleus? Well, look, here's the story. There was an RNA world where there were just RNA molecules self-replicating, right? And somehow cells arose, early cells arose. Maybe they were RNA cells. We really don't know. Maybe they didn't have a nucleus. And then the idea is, and also it could be that reverse transcriptase arose, and that converted these RNA replicators to DNA, and that gave rise to the cell. So I don't know how viruses come into that. It's not a necessary part of the whole thing. By the way, I just saw a paper today. All right, so look, I said to Claude this afternoon, tell me some hot stuff happening in science. And Claude sent me an article published in Nature Communications. Holy crap, get this, folks. What is it? Cancer and... no, I have to look it up because I can't even freaking remember. Sorry, folks. And it's true because I went and looked at the paper. And I would never have found this otherwise. Okay. It's a paper. All right, wait a minute. Researchers have discovered hundreds of metabolic enzymes attached to human DNA inside the nucleus, forming what they are calling a nuclear metabolic fingerprint that varies across tissues and cancers. Published in Nature Communications. More than 200 metabolic enzymes, many of which are normally responsible for producing energy in the mitochondria, were found sitting directly on human DNA. Remarkably, about 7% of all proteins attached to chromatin were metabolic enzymes, suggesting the nucleus has its own independent mini metabolism. They looked at 44 cancer cell lines and 10 healthy cell types. And they found that each cell type has its distinct pattern of metabolic enzymes in the nucleus. For example, oxidative phosphorylation enzymes were common in breast cancer cells but largely absent in lung cancer cells. And the same pattern held when they examined actual patient tumor samples. So, okay, here's why this is really exciting. I wish I could do this on Twitter, but I don't know anything about cancer, right? Biology. I'm not an oncologist or a cancer researcher. I have no right to talk about this on a podcast. But there is increasing thought that cancer is a metabolic disease, right? So when DNA got to be analyzable, we discovered oncogenes, and we said, oh, cancer is a genetic disease, right? But a lot of things don't align with that. Especially there's these transplantation experiments where you take a cancer cell in culture and you replace the nucleus with a normal nucleus. It doesn't do anything. But if you replace the cytoplasm, now it's no longer a cancer cell. So the idea is there are metabolic defects in the mitochondria. But, well, I think it's a mix of both, most likely. So anyway, this idea that there are metabolic enzymes sitting on chromatin, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. Anyway, that got me on the viruses create the nucleus thing. Dorothy in Duluth, 36F. Snow melting fast, but more on the way. Mark is in Vegas, where it's 25C. Miss Blue Ocean Sandy is late, but she's here. Good evening. Visto, maybe I mean active ignorance, not just not knowing something, but actively ignoring those. Yes. So that's another kind of ignorance, active ignorance, right, where you... So there's ignorance where you just don't know because you never learned. And then you hear someone spew nonsense and you just believe that because you don't know any better. And then there's active ignorance where you know vaccines work, but you just have an agenda. You want to sell your supplements, so you say vaccines cause problems. Okay, those are the two different things. Yeah, willful ignorance sets itself apart from not just knowing. It's right. Absolutely right. Hello, Tess in Canton, Massachusetts, where it's 44F. Willful ignorance. Rogan has had Sean Carroll, the physicist, on. That's good. So Sean Carroll would be good. That's cool. It's a false notion of rugged individualism, narcissism that has infected the human population like cancer, and when out of control, it can be deadly. Holly says, do you think polio will make a strong comeback? Yeah, I do, because they're going to not recommend polio vaccines in the U.S. I mean, you know, you could not recommend a bunch of vaccines, and then the mother says or the father says, look, we won't bother getting any of these vaccines. You know, it's a real problem, yeah. I think, but it's going to take a while for polio. It might be a number of years, but I think it will be back and it'll be horrible because all of it's preventable. I mean, the measles is already horrible because it's totally preventable with vaccines. Parents do not understand what they're doing. 15C in Allegheny County, New York. Really rainy, just all over, yuck. Hello, Hans. Nice to see you from Ecuador. Enjoying your course. Thank you. Michelle is in Philadelphia. 21C. My least favorite expression where people say, I'm doing my own research via the internet and no science. Yes. 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 It's ridiculous. I do my own research. No, sorry. You have to ask an expert. You don't do your own research because you don't know what to do. Well, don't trust experts. Insist RFK Jr.'s next colonoscopy is done by a plumber. That's right. Walrus, early 20th century physics was pretty wild. Yeah, it was. A lot of cool stuff went on. Please stop using generative AI as a search engine. I'm not using it as a search engine. I have conversations about findings. Okay? When I do a search, I do a Google search. But if I want to know something, for example, I will give Claude a PDF and say, give me an outline. So I get a quick look at what's going on, and then I go read the paper. And it's really useful. It saves a lot of time. Rita is waiting for rabies. 40% of pet owners are vaccine hesitant. The virus lives in skunks, foxes, and bats, and it always will. Unvaccinated dogs and cats will bring it home. Yeah, it's ridiculous that they're vaccine hesitant. Oh my gosh. Walrus gumbo, I've heard that Iran have uranium enriched to 60%. If true, it means there's still a very long way to getting 90+%. What you need from, I have no idea. It's not something that I would know. Listen to Alan Dove. He's the most informed. I'm not sure he's the most informed. He doesn't use it. He doesn't realize how useful it can be. He is a environmentalist, which is great. And I agree that it's environmentally an issue, but it is useful for humanity in many ways. So I respect that he doesn't want to use it. That's fine. But I'm going to use it because for me already, it's helped me in my work. Call me Ishmael for now. Good evening from Maryland. -18 with a thunderstorm just passing through. Indigo, that's a nice color for a MacBook Neo. Cool. Christina is in Hershey, PA, at 66F. Did you see the video that recorded a pebble-sized meteorite crashing into the doorstep of a home? I didn't. I'll have to look for that. Okay, AIs use thousands of watts to hallucinate. They don't always hallucinate, okay? They do hallucinate, but they don't always, and they can be useful, okay? So I can spend 12 hours looking for some papers, and I can have them summarize 20 years worth of research for me, and then I pick what papers to go look at to validate that. I think it's really useful. How many watt hours does watching 2 hours? So it's 100 to 300 watt hours per hour of stream. So we're burning a lot of electricity here, and I'm not the only one streaming, right? So why do we do it? Because it's useful. You can learn things. Is it perfect? No. But you can learn things. You have to be open-minded about new stuff. Hello, Julie. Welcome. All right, now we're talking about physics. Mark, just make up an ideology and stick with it no matter what. There are only three types of people in the world: those who will believe, two, those who reject everything, useless. I don't know. I think there's more to it. Yeah, here we go. 3, those who think critically are so few they don't matter. People who think critically used to matter in the U.S. I mean, look, post-World War II, we made a good world order, the so-called liberal world order, which a lot of people didn't like, especially the conservatives, and now they're getting to reverse it. But it made for world stability. And you see now that it's being disrupted. What's going to happen? You'll see. Otobotodogo, does MMR dose number 2 expand immunity for individuals, or is it just to increase population coverage? No, it makes more robust, stronger immunity. Antibody levels, you do some somatic hypermutation. So 1 dose was not enough to prevent disease. Yeah. Hello, Marco. Thank you for hitting the like. See you later. Aerozone. Paper out of Harvard Med School in an email today showing people taking a daily multivitamin are shown to extend their lifespan. Okay, there could be a lot of confounding effects there because people who are taking vitamins are probably also taking care of other aspects of their health, right? So we'll see how they controlled for it. Tone of question, I thought inflammation increases the week or so of the vaccination. Well, a vaccine does induce inflammation, right, for a week. And then it prevents infections, it prevents disease, so it reduces inflammation. So yeah, they do induce inflammation, but the long-term effect is better. Time for Twio, This Week in Oncology. Totally. I think I'd love to do that. It's fascinating. Insanely complex. Yes, there are a lot of different diseases there, but I'd love to get an oncologist and a cancer researcher and do that because I want to be on it because I want to learn. It's so freaking interesting. Hans writes, we know that vaccines, that's probably oncology podcasts out there already, right? Vaccines cannot prevent infections, but how could a vaccine be sterilizing? Okay, so yeah, sterilizing would mean it prevents infection. So 2 vaccines have claimed to be sterilizing. Measles and HPV, okay? I have not seen data that validates that. For measles, for sure, because to show it's sterilizing, you have to vaccinate people, wait for them to get measles, and then see if they shed virus. And I guarantee they're going to shed virus because the memory response takes a couple of days to kick in. So you're definitely going to get infected. Now, HPV, I don't know. Apparently, there's a paper out there that says it prevents infection. I haven't been meaning to look this up, and I will, and we will talk about it. But yeah, sterilizing. I mean, that's why an HIV vaccine hasn't worked so far, because you get infected, you cannot prevent infection. Therefore, you establish a latent reservoir. You cannot prevent that, and you're screwed. So in order to prevent a latently infected person with HIV, you have to make a sterilizing vaccine. Tona would love Twee Oncology. Dr. Eleonora Teplinsky from New Jersey. She's a top woman's cancer oncologist. Twia would be great. Luby, some of my peers and professors tout Gen AI. I take it a little personally as a digital artist. I'm more worried about water waste than power and generated art is so artificial. Be human, learn, try. I don't think I'm not being human. I don't think I'm not learning. I don't think I'm not trying. Okay, I'm doing all those things. I'm using it as an adjunct to help me. I'm not using it to do everything for me. There's a balance, I think. But companies are big time into it. They're using it left and right because it saves them a lot of time. Dagfin, it's okay to be late. 1:40 a.m. in Oslo and 3C. Brian, a bit late from Sydney, where it's a nice 25C. We don't need AI to stream a movie. We're just talking about how much power it consumes to stream a movie, more than an AI query, basically. That's all. That was the point. Do I think Amy will make an appearance? I don't know. Maybe. Mr. Doreen. My Doreen now has a conflicting responsibility on Wednesday evenings. Otherwise, she would be here. She would be pleased to know another Doreen is here. Julie is in East King County, Washington, where it's 10C and severely windy with massive trees all around. Yeah, Tom, I think it's both. And I also think it depends on the cancer. So many virus-induced cancers, right? The virus delivers an oncogene, makes the cell divide. It's a genetic alteration. But other cancers may be different. Yeah. Hello. Oh, hello. Rach from the Isle of Man. Good to see you again. Les uses Claude Pro, and it's incredibly useful. Tona, we miss Amy. It'd be a treat to have her on. I hear it's our 6-year anniversary from the shutdown. I'll always remember the live A and V banter and occasional hostility. I asked AI if AI makes mistakes. It confesses it does and blames it on their training data. Gen AI is like alcohol, useful sometimes, mostly poisonous and addictive. Team Claude in the chat. I don't know what that means. I have to be critical of everything. Well, I am critical, but you're saying I shouldn't use it. That's a big difference, okay? If you want to talk about it and be critical, that's fine. But if you say, don't use it, folks, that's not a good approach either. That's all I'm saying. Why do we say intranasal vaccine? We don't say intraoral or intrarectal. It should be just nasal. Yes, nasal. Intramuscular. Well, we do say intramuscular, right? Well, we say oral. So I think it should be nasal. Yes. Ay, ay, ay. Visto, I think I'll start Luddite AI. Whatever question you ask, it says, I don't know, ask your mother. Runs on a single AA battery. That's great. You're so funny. Hello from Razor. I hope you got the email about grandparents for vaccines group. Everyone should watch their stories before vaccines. Jen lost her twin brother to polio. She joined this Salk trial. I have to go and look and see if I got it. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Mark writes, LLMs are power tools, kind of like table saws. You can make beautiful furniture or cut off your fingers. Skill in using them is required. That's a good one. I like that. Okay, Veronica says, Gen AI makes mistakes because it's literally programmed that way, not because of training data. I keep saying that people aren't informed enough. That's insulting, Veronica, to say we're not informed enough. Okay, just state the facts and leave it at that. But I don't know. Is this true that they're programmed to make mistakes? Somebody who knows, answer it. Holly, I'm so glad to meet you and look forward to tuning in again. I'm so grateful for access to educated people interested in the good welfare of our country. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Can't imagine anyone being anti-vax after watching their stories. Well, I think that's a great approach to give personal stories like that. I think that's what really convinces people. Yep. Using AI doesn't make you informed. Well, I disagree with that. It gives you access to information, which you could get in other ways, but it would take you much, much longer to get it. We use mobile phones. We have no idea how they work, nor what materials are used, how many kids die in Congo for our tech. Yes, we all know, but we choose not to think about it, right? And if you don't use your phone, then you're going to get left behind. Steve wishes the people that don't believe in science would give up their cell phones and their computers and their cars. Yeah, yes. The BioCart writes, great article in Nature newsletter today on the apportionment of energy used in the body, including the cost and benefit of immune response. Oh, this is great. That's really good. The brain is a big one, right? It's huge. A lot of energy there. Have you ever considered a show about pet health? You could call it TWIA, This Week in Animals. No, I haven't. But but it would be great. There's so many cool shows I could do, but I can't. I need to have the right people, and I don't know. So there are fields now that are far away from what I know, and I don't know how to get the right people. Yeah, so we have Angela on Twiv, and she is a veterinarian, so that's something, right? And I don't mean quick. I just mean ability to do things in a reasonable amount of time, which I wouldn't have done otherwise because I don't have the time to do it. That's all. I'm not looking for a fast solution. You should know that. Well, maybe you don't, but I'm telling you, I look for assistance. I mean, it's the same reason why I liked spreadsheets when they came out, various Google programs that are useful to me and other people. They help you. They help you do things more efficiently. And so you can do more. Nevitz, everyone who has been following and learning from TWIV will more easily be able to follow the science of oncology. The language and ideas are similar. That's absolutely right. COVID-19 has established a clear pattern of two major annual peaks. Why do you think this is, and do other respiratory viruses have this pattern? No, we don't know. We talk about this all the time on Daniel's clinical update. We don't know why there are two peaks, and I'm waiting for one of them to go away, right? The respiratory viruses, at least in temperate climates like ours, are seasonal, and they occur in the winter. and people tend to be indoors more and in contact with each other, and maybe it has to do with temperature and humidity and so forth. I don't know why COVID is doing that. But did you know also, this is not related, but well, who knows, maybe it is. This is the first season where there's not a new variant that has arisen and dominated. We're still on the same one. I don't know, why is that? I wish people who use AI to save time or because they think they aren't good enough to do it definitely have the ability to. Yeah, I understand that. I don't know what other people do. All I know is what I do, right? And I can imagine that there are abuses and so forth, and that there are people that use it because they don't think they can do it. I agree. I agree with that. Very right. So I'm worried about how uncritical people are of generative AI. Yes, I agree. You have to be very careful. Are all eyes sycophantic? I don't feel that they are. No. Intrarectal. Yeah, it's just rectal, right? I'm going to take a rectal temperature. You don't say, I'm going to take your intrarectal temperature. Oh, Dagfin writes, nasal can be misinterpreted as on the nose and not in the nose. Thus, intranasal is a logical term. That's a good argument. I like that. Kang writes, we can make less mistakes by expanding our knowledge. That is our training data. More power to TWIV. Well, you know, speaking of training data, I did watch a video which said basically LLMs are running out of training data and they're going to start using their own data, so a great percentage of the internet now is AI generated. And so they're just going to use that. And it's like photocopying something over and over. Eventually it's going to degrade. So this is really bad, because they consumed everything that humans made, in hundreds of years in a very short time. And that's a big problem. Okay. Very writes, they are programmed to give any answer, no matter if it's correct or not. AI bosses literally say that. Of course, it's correct most of the time, but it'll make so many people complacent. People in this chat are the ones who will double and triple check. So sometimes it'll give me an answer which I know is wrong. I said, well, no, that's not right. And, oh, you caught me. You're right. Brian practiced oncology for 45 years, and misinformation with quack treatments drove me nuts. I can imagine, right? People wanted to go to get peach pit treatments in some other countries, stuff like that. Yeah. Lots of similarity. Virology and oncology. Yeah. Active ignorance is called denialism. There's called that, which is, yeah, that's a good word. I like that. Maybe COVID will go extinct. I don't think so. Besides human, it affects many, many other animals. Yeah. What you do is fine. I object to people using it to get out of learning or to write stuff and make art. I also object to every app trying to force it on me. Yeah, well, I think I don't do that. I try to use it as an adjunct to my own methods. To assist me, like a research assistant would help me. Like I would get a person, I go look in the literature for all this stuff now, which I never did, but I always did it myself. And I just ask them, what's the literature? Give me some recent reviews on this. Okay, let's do a mini lecture. This one is very interesting. I hope you like it. Let's see, play in full screen. So, all right, so we'll go to screen share, and now we'll play full screen. Okay. This is a paper that we're going to do Friday on TWIV, which I think is really cool, and I wanted to explain it to you. So you get your own little private screening. Dynamics of natural selection preceding human viral epidemics and pandemics. This is the paper. It was published in Cell by Havens, Pond, Zaire, Pekar, Parker, Warraby, Anderson, and Wertheim. And these are people who have published previously on the COVID origins and HIV origins and flu pandemic origins and so forth. So here's the thing. This is the question that this paper addresses. Zoonotic viruses come from animals to infect humans. And the question is, we have always thought that, well, some people have thought, no, I didn't think this, the animal viruses must first undergo adaptation in their original host or an intermediate host, or maybe during the initial poor human transmission called stuttering transmission, before they can cause epidemics, right? Or the alternative, which I always happen to think, some viruses in the natural host reservoir already have the ability to infect and transmit between humans. No prior adaptation is needed. I've always felt this. RNA viruses mutate like crazy, and viruses in bats, at some point a virus is going to emerge that is good for transmitting between humans, but most of the time it never gets into people because the bats are, right? They're far away, and the likelihood that the virus is going to get into people is low. But if it does, like in a live animal market, then the virus is ready to go. And I think that's what happened with SARS-CoV-2. I don't think any adaptation is needed. So how do you address this? So here's the thing. Here are phylogenetic trees showing evolution of bat viruses, right? So we're saying this bat virus is going into humans. So the bat is the reservoir host, and in the one idea, the adaptation is happening. There's no adaptation. It's just undergoing diversification in the bat. That's this gray box here. And then, boom, it goes into humans and it's ready to go. Another idea would be that it needs to become pre-adapted in some intermediate animal, or maybe by stuttering infection in humans. And the third is that there's a short time in an intermediate host that's needed. Okay, so those are the scenarios. This is a figure from the paper. So we don't have any direct evidence for this. We don't have virus isolates from infected proximal and intermediate hosts. A proximal host is the one just before it gets into people, right? We don't have that. We just don't have it for any virus where we have the viral isolates, we have the proximal isolates, and we have intermediate host isolates. So it's not going to be possible to get the answer from having virus isolates, but we can look at evolutionary patterns in virus genomes. And that's what they did in this paper. They looked at evolutionary patterns. And so what they did is they had sequences of, and there are many examples of this in this paper, where they have the phylogenetic trees built, where they have the ice sequences from the animal reservoir, they have sequences from the pre-outbreak, which is the stem, and then they have the outbreak itself. And what they do is they measure DNDS. This is the ratio of non-synonymous to synonymous changes in the genome sequence. So a synonymous change is a base change that does not lead to a protein, an amino acid change. So synonymous, it's a synonym. It codes for the same amino acid. But a non-synonymous change changes the amino acid. And that's where evolution occurs, when you have changes in amino acid. That can lead to selection and so forth. So this ratio gives you an idea of what's happening in a virus population, for example. And this ratio, omega, if it's less than 1, it's called purifying selection, where deleterious alleles are being removed. And if it's 1, it's neutral evolution. Nothing really is happening either way. And if it's over 1, so a lot of non-synonymous mutations, which means a lot of amino acid changes, they're being selected for. So that's positive selection. So they measured the DNDS for a number of viruses. And then they applied a statistical test called the RELAX test, where they essentially converted DNDS to a factor called K. And if K is greater than 1, you have intensified selection on the genome. If it's 1, there's no change, it's neutral. And if it's less than 1, you have relaxed selection. Now, so this is a novel approach to looking at that. And again, this DNDS ratio, I want to go into this in a little more detail. So the ratio, right, the rate of non-synonymous divided by the rate of synonymous substitutions. This is at the nucleotide level. If it's less than 1, so in other words, if there are fewer non-synonymous than synonymous, this is called purifying selection. Deleterious mutations are being removed. The protein sequence is being conserved. If it's around 1, it's neutral evolution. Mutations neither help nor are hindering. And if it's greater than 1, new amino acid changes are actively favored. So the non-synonymous is more than the synonymous. So that means you're getting amino acid changes, and this is consistent with adaptation, right? And as I said, they converted this to this K parameter. And so K less than 1 is indicative of relaxed selection. So purifying and positive selection weaken. The virus faces fewer evolutionary constraints. And this would happen in lab passage of a virus or introduction into a new host with relaxed immune pressure. K equals 1, there's no change. The selection on the branches of these trees is indistinguishable from the background. This is the null. So this is a natural zoonosis. No pre-adaptation is detectable. This is a virus in bats. And then intensified selection, things get higher. Purifying and positive selection, the virus faces heightened evolutionary pressure. So, for example, gain of function passage under directed selection for transmission can do this. All right, so that's what this K factor does. All right, so again, in the natural host, you expect to see omega much less than 1, some sequences around 1 and few greater, because strong purifying selection removes harmful mutations. But after, say, lab passage or a host switch, you would have fewer less than or equal to 1, more around 1. So you're released from host immune pressure and receptor constraints. The whole distribution slides to neutrality. So where does relaxed selection occur? In lab or cell culture, no immune system, no in vivo receptor binding constraints, no competition. Novel hosts or intermediate hosts, different receptor landscapes, immune responses, tissue tropism. Or if a virus has been frozen, there's zero evolution. And if it reemerges after decades, you see no substitutions on the stem branch. That's the branch just before spillover. So these are all scenarios that they actually looked at. So which viruses did they look at? So the 2009 influenza virus pandemic, which the reservoir was swine. The 2004-5 Angola Marburg virus outbreak, reservoir is bats. SARS-CoV 2002, the reservoir bats and civet cats. 2013-2016 West Africa Ebola virus outbreaks, bats. Mpox, 2022, unknown reservoir, although we now think it's this striped squirrel. But SARS-CoV-2, of course, in bats, the reservoir. And for all of these, we have lots of sequences. So we can apply this DNDS criteria to see what's going on. And what do they find? This is a summary of all the data in the paper. So here's the 2009 pandemic, the Ebola, Marburg, Mpox, SARS-CoV-2, and SARS-CoV. No pre-adaptation is needed before zoonotic spillover. So 5 of 6 viruses show no change in selection on stem branches leading up to spillover. Evolution before spillover is indistinguishable from reservoir evolution, right? So that's the point here. These are evolving exactly as they did in the reservoir just before they spill over, and there's no difference. So there's no adaptation. And the exception is SARS-CoV, where you have less than 1. And this is because of the palm civet intermediate host, which I'll tell you about in a moment. So adaptation happens after spillover, not before it. Once the virus enters humans, of course, the virus changes a lot because you have different pressures, but this happens after the jump, not before. So you don't need any pre-adaptation. That's what the data are telling us, right? You have animal reservoir, you have your background of selection, then your stem branch, there's no change. The spillover, of course, brings you to a new species. And then in the human, you have incredible selection changes, and that's reflected in the sequence, right? So here's 1977, which is a little bit different. So H1N1 went extinct in 1957 when it was replaced by H2N2. But 20 years later, H1N1 reemerges. It causes a pandemic, and it's nearly identical to the 1950s strains. In fact, there are only 48 mutations during this 27 years of evolution, so it's not possible. It was not evolving in those 27 years. Now, the virus is temperature sensitive. It replicates better at cooler temps, and it's, in fact, this whole scenario is consistent with it being stored in a laboratory, and then somehow it escaped in 1977 during a vaccine trial. And the selection analysis shows a relaxation of selection on the stem branch. That is before spillover. And to compare it, they used a lab virus, WSN33, which has undergone true lab passage, and they have the sequence for that. And both that and 1977 show relaxed selection, which is consistent with laboratory passage. In other words, someone tried to passage this H1N1 in a lab, probably to make it a vaccine strain, and the signature of that passage is evident when you look at this DN-DN ratio. And they also looked at other laboratory passages, and they all leave detectable signatures, like the passage of measles virus to make a vaccine gives you a relaxed K value. Growing MHV coronavirus in cell culture, it's less than 1. Ferret passage of H5N1 to achieve transmissibility in ferrets, this also changed. Unstable, again, showing the signatures of cell culture or animal passage. The mumps vaccine, again, relaxed DNDS. H2N2 was attempted to make a cold-adapted vaccine from that. You have a change, although it's hard to know which direction it is, but it's relaxed. And these H1N1 and the WSN33 lab strains that I just told you about relaxed. And again, in each case, all laboratory passage viruses show detectable selection changes. And so that tells you that this framework, which they call the relaxed framework, is a reliable detector of lab passage. And so the SARS-1 is an interesting exception. So this had a bat reservoir, and it seems to have circulated in a palm civet for maybe months or years, and then eventually got into humans. And so if you look at the bat background and the bat stem sequences, there's no change in the reservoir, but there's relaxation detected in the stem, civet, and human sequences. So this prolonged civet passage leaves a detectable evolutionary imprint. And that's the expected signal when an intermediate host is involved. So there, again, you see the changes expected from being in an intermediate host on DNDS. And by the way, SARS-CoV-2, there's really no signature of a lab animal being involved. So, I'm sorry, not a lab animal, an intermediate animal being involved. So we do know that animals at the open market in Wuhan were infected, but it must have been very brief, maybe a few weeks, and just served as a conduit. And no adaptation occurred in those animals. Anyway, the takeaways are, first of all, you don't need pre-adaptation. Viruses are ready to go in their reservoir, but the selection, of course, changes after spillover, and that's where the adaptation occurs. And number three, really interesting, lab passage has a unique signature. They show relaxed selection, so you can tell that this has happened. And this was not detected in SARS-CoV-2. And that for that reason, the 1977 H1N1 is likely a lab escape from a vaccine trial. So it's relaxed selection on the 1977 stem. They were doing a vaccine trial, and it probably escaped. And that's why they call it a lab escape. It's not really a lab escape. They were deliberately putting this into people, and somehow it got away. So pandemic preparedness should focus on human exposure events at species barriers, not pre-adaptation surveillance alone. That's not what we need. And this relaxed framework can be applied to future outbreaks. To assess the origin of viruses, we should increase our sampling to improve the detection power. And they suggest designating the 1977 H1N1 pandemic as a putative circulating vaccine-derived influenza virus, CVDIAV, kind of like circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. Anyway, this is a really exciting finding. This was reported in the New York Times on March 9th by Carl Zimmer. Researchers have devised a new tool for discerning between naturally occurring viral outbreaks and those resulting from lab accidents. If SARS-CoV-2 was reared in a lab, its mutations would unfold in a pattern like that of Russian flu. Instead, Dr. Wertheim and his colleagues found its mutation pattern matched the 5 naturally occurring outbreaks they studied. COVID appears to have arisen from some really bad luck. As the precursor virus was adapting to infect bats, it ended up starting a pandemic. It's coincidentally exceptionally good at being a human virus. So, nice paper, and I look forward to our discussion of that on TWIV on Friday. Dang, this is such an interesting study. But hey, who needs expertise? That's right. Let's see. I'm going back to see some comments because we stopped a while ago. Oh, here we go. Maybe the lure of bagels could bring Amy back. Mark writes, correction, LLMs have been trained on web-available data. How many non-public books are yet to be used? Or content locked up in non-text media like Vincent's multiple podcasts and all others? Yeah, they are, but apparently most of what's web available is almost used up, right? I assume they got my textbook too. You can find copies online. Vista looks at zoonotic viruses as a lake full of water. When given even a small channel, the water will flow. Okay, good point, Visto. You've learned. Could not synonymous base changes cause stalling or timing or folding changes that have importance beyond what protein is produced? Yes, I think you're right. I don't know how that would feed into this because we really don't know the impact of that on evolution, right? We don't know how much of a pressure it would be, but I totally agree that this is feasible. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, this is Vincent should have one slide showing the difference of synonymous and non-synonymous with respect to amino acids. Yeah, maybe we can find a slide right away. Let's see. Well, this isn't perfect, but here, I'll show you this. Right, so we have here, you can see non-synonymous are in red. So these changes change the amino acid. So ATA to CTA goes from isoleucine to leucine, but TGG, oh, that's the same. Here, CAA to CAG, that's still a glutamine. So that's the idea. Yeah, should have shown that in my slide deck. Yep. Relax, don't do it when you want to evolve to it. Isn't that a song? How would one disambiguate the diversity from relaxed selection? Well, I think it's a population thing, right? You have to see where the population is heading. And I mean, if there are a lot of changes, I mean, the idea was, is there a lot of change going on in the bat reservoir, right? Which would suggest that that is needed for it to jump into people. But we don't see that in any of these spillovers. It's pretty constant. The DNDS is pretty neutral, right? So not a lot of evolution is going on. So even in the bat, it arrived there ready to go. Of course, we may be limited by our sampling too. Maybe we don't go fast enough back, right? This paper should be the front page of every newspaper. Yeah, really. Do we treat D614G as an early adaptation? It's thought to be. There's a little controversy over it, but it certainly arose early on in the spike, and it ended up in every viral isolate subsequently, right? So that could either mean it helped viral fitness, or it just arose early and was a passenger, right? Right place, right time. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. So that's right. There are TWIV transcripts and also some of the other pods, and they could train on that. Yeah, they could really train on that. Got any mini lectures on statistics? Oh gosh, no. I am not a statistics person. I would not be the one to do that. Does China still have wet meat markets? Yes. In fact, they were all reopened. So they were closed for a while after COVID. And then they opened them all up again. They're all back. Okay, let's do a quiz. Now, I put the URL earlier, right? You go to I don't even remember what it was. It's bsocrative.com/student or /login/student, and the room number is virus. Maybe less, you could paste it in again. We're on the first question already. bsocrative.com/ is it student/login? Let's see. bsocrative.com/ /login/student, and the room number is virus. So if you could go into the room and answer this question, that would be great. Sadistics, indeed, right? Sadistics. Which of the following parameters is not influenced by human interventions? Mortality rate, case fatality ratio, infection fatality rate, incidence, incubation period. Here, B, I'll write the URL, bsocrative.com/login. Oh, Les just did it. Thank you, Les. And the room is virus, right? I didn't study for the quiz, Robert says. It's okay. I should show the thing here. So we have 24 students of you answering. It's okay if you didn't study. You could just kind of look at this. I mean, you've been listening to office hours for a while. You might have a good sense for what's going on. I'm assuming human social, not biological. Yeah, human social. I mean, do your best. It doesn't matter if you flunk it. There's no flunking. It's all about learning. Are we ready for the reveal? Seem to be stuck at 20. Anybody want more time? Mark says, I don't study for my blood or urine tests. Yeah, you really can't, can you? All right, let's see the answer. Show the results. Please don't put answer in chat. The incubation period is invariant, not influenced by human interventions. Mortality rate, case fatality, infection fatality, incidence, all of those can be affected by interventions, right? If you learn how to treat a disease, if you have hospital capacity, et cetera, you can influence how many people die or even how it happens. If you tell people all to stay home, the incidence goes down, right? But the incubation period is built into the viral genome. By the way, the incubation period is the time after the virus gets in you before symptoms. The time before symptoms. Symptoms are what you feel, right? You feel a headache, muscle ache, nausea, fatigue, blah, blah, blah. Those are symptoms, things that nobody else can measure. Okay, the next one. The outer layer of which of the following is dead but can still serve as a portal of entry? Respiratory tract, alimentary tract, eye, skin, urogenital tract. One hopes that it's a certain one here and not the others, right? You don't want your certain layers of skin to be dead. Oh, I just gave it away, damn it. Certain layers of cells to be dead. This one everyone should get, because you probably learned this before. So Dagfin writes, we learn not for school, but for life. Of course, we're not learning for school. Yes, I totally agree. Les tells us that live animal markets are a $70 billion industry. Yes, it's huge. not just in China. We have live animal markets here in the U.S. We have live chicken markets in New York City. At least we used to. I've seen them. So, yeah, it's a big industry. And I mean, I was thinking of this today. It's because of the live animal market in Wuhan that we had this pandemic. If the market didn't exist, we wouldn't have had it. So what can you do? I just don't know. I mean, they want the market. It's their country. Well, Nevitz likes this question. I try to make my questions interesting and fun, but mostly I want to make a good assessment of their learning, right? Not just memorization. I just want them to learn conceptually. Oh, John writes, I recall Dixon discussing a big culling of swine in Southeast Asia right before spillover, and that could have shifted demand towards wet markets. That's right. He used to talk about that. There was a big outbreak of swine SADS, swine something diarrhea syndrome. Oh my God, I can't remember it. Swine acute diarrhea syndrome, SADS. It was a coronavirus actually that spilled over from bats into pigs and caused big outbreaks in China, lots of mortality. And so, yeah, maybe that shifted the demand toward meat markets. Yeah. Julie writes, I am not a student. I listen to all MicrobeTV videos. I normally don't get to the live one in time. I work in aerospace, but am obsessed with all this learning and information. You're so fun. Well, that's great. I'd love people who love to learn. It's great. Everybody here loves to learn. That's why we have a lot of fun. I'm glad you like it, Julie. Mark, if I buy grass-fed beef from a rancher and pick up via his slaughterhouse butcher, is this considered a live animal market? I don't think that's considered a live animal market, no. Okay, let's look at this one here. The outer layer of which is dead. Skin, of course. Most of you got that. Very good. Who said alimentary tract? Oh my gosh, it better not be dead. Oh, I think Elizabeth said she pushed the wrong button. So all of you got it. It's 100%. Very good. Okay, another one. Which of the following assist in viral dissemination from the infected animal? Viremia, basolateral release from epithelial cells, movement through the lymphatic system, inflammation at the basement membrane, all of the above. So what assists in dissemination in the infected animal? Vista wants to know, Angela says, all pet shop mice are infected. Educate me. Well, they all have some kind of virus, probably lymphocytic choriomeningitis virus, right? LCMV. That was the subject of that serosurvey that we looked at a couple of weeks ago on TWIV. That's all I know, but there may be more. So she may know that. Can ask her next time. The questions make you think. You have to walk through each of the answers and think, yes, that's the idea, Nevitz. I'm glad you like them. You have to go through one by one and think about what's going on. Yeah. Tom writes, I think these wet markets also had and still have an intrinsic demand. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, you. There is a big demand. In fact, what's his name? Eco Health Alliance. What was his name? Peter Daszak. He used to say you could order them on your cell phone and go to the restaurant and they'd be ready for you, what animals you wanted to eat. An alimentary tract is your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, and rectum. It's the whole thing, that long tube, alimentary tract, where the food goes in and out. Peter Daszak, right? Your food pipes. That's another way to do it. Yes, another reason to bleach mouse droppings before cleaning hantavirus. That's right. Mark writes, a quote from Henry Ford, thinking is the hardest work there is. That's why so few do it. I have a quote by Thomas Edison in my office. It says, in the incubator, there is no expedient to which a man will not resort to avoid the real labor of thinking. I bought it at the Edison Museum years ago when I was a kid. I really liked it, and I've kept it with me. I've kept it with me my whole life. There's no expedient to which a man will not resort to avoid the real labor of thinking. Elementary, my dear Watson. I really like that. I'm sorry I'm blocking with the comments. I want to see the comments. I bet I could fix that though. Here, let's see. Now, let's see which of the following. Yeah. So now I could put a comments up. Alimentary tract, snapper to crapper. I love that. That's so good. And Brian writes, I have no chance. I don't even know what some of the words are. Sorry about that. The size of the USA beef market was, what is it, 156 billion? Can you imagine the U.S. abandoning beef? People like beef. Ask Dr. Martin about the desiratory tract. Of course, that's the urogenital tract. Yep. We used to have the Fulton Fish Market downtown Manhattan. We don't have it anymore. I don't think so. Let's see. Yeah, it's still there, Tona. It's still there. All right, Mark says, quote battles. Yogi Berra is the test. You can learn a lot just by watching. The best. He means the best. All right, 21 out of 29. How are we doing here? Do we feel that we need an answer? Does anybody need more time? Or do you need a joke? I could tell you a coronavirus joke, but it would take you 2 weeks to get it. All right, let's see. Let's do the reveal. All of the above. They all assist in viral dissemination in the infected animal. So viremia, virus in the blood, basolateral release from epithelial cells. So an epithelial cell sheet is polarized. There's an apical, a top, a basolateral, the bottom. And basolateral release of viruses helps it to spread. Movement through the lymphatic system and inflammation at the basement membrane, which compromises the basement membrane and allows viruses to pass through into the circulation. Yeah, the Fulton Fish Market's in the Bronx now. Very good. MN said, isn't it now in the Bronx? Yeah, it is. Would there be much opportunity for virus spread in a market where all the animals are already dead? Depends how long they've been dead. There could still be infectious virus in them. I mean, you can take chicken home and get yourself contaminated with salmonella, right? Because it's still alive for a certain period of time, especially if you refrigerate it. Ryan is still looking up the words. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do one more. Which statement about viral transmission is not correct? All virus infections are transmitted by shedding. The route is determined by the site of virus shedding. Transmission is required to maintain a chain of infection. Speaking can produce an aerosol that can transmit infection. Horizontal transmission is among members of one species. Are farmed animals more likely to have a human-compatible virus than wild animals? No, not at all. Remember VSTO. Mutation is random. And mutations are happening in farmed animals as well as wild animals. So, no, either one. I mean, look, the mink in the Netherlands, they transmitted SARS-CoV-2 to their handlers. The handlers gave it to them, and then they gave it back. The Fulton Fish Market is now the South Street Seaport, a tourist, not a fish trap. Very good. Very good. So, Barb, you already finished, I guess, so you say you got a C. I don't know what a C is. We do have more contact with farmed animals. But think of the pandemics that have been started with farmed animals. Well, pigs, right? They're farmed, yeah. I guess, well, it's hard to know because there were pandemics before we started tracking them, so we don't really know. But of the ones in the 20th century, right, most of them are from wild animals, meat markets, but there have been from farmed animals, right? The 2009 came from pigs for sure. 75%. Okay, that's a C. Yeah, I guess so. 70 to 80 is a C. Look at Aurelian. Mullen's mother named him Mark Wayne because she wasn't sure which of her two brothers was the father. That's a really tough one. This is better. I kissed a fish. Fish herpes. $19 to $30. Let's go, folks. Answer the questions, and we can move on and get the answers. We're almost done here. We got 10 minutes left. It's perfect timing. And I'll tell another joke. This one someone said before. It's actually good. What did the plant scientists say to the geneticist? It's a platycodon, not a stop codon. I like that one. I don't remember who who said it, but I really like that. Oh, these are my jokes. I'm showing them to you. I don't want to do that. I should do it on another computer. Oh my gosh. All right, jokes. Tegrency. All right, 20 out of 30. Yeah, someone said that joke on office hours once. It's not a platycodon, it's a stop codon. No, it's a platycodon, not a stop codon. What was the correct answer to the last one? Are you ready for it? Okay, here's the answer. What is wrong is that all virus infections are transmitted by shedding. The route is typically determined by the site of shedding, but what's wrong is they're not all transmitted by shedding. In fact, can you think of some that are not transmitted by shedding? So what is shedding, right? Exhaling droplets, fecal transmission, sexual transmission. There's all shedding where you're putting your virus out there. Vertical transmission, right? Mother to child, especially placental. That would not be shedding. But if you get a dog bite or a mosquito bite, that's not shedding. Germline transmission, right? Endogenous retroviruses integrated into the germline. Those would be not shed. And so there are quite a few. We just went over this the other day, actually. Let me show you the slide, and then we'll wrap this up. So that would be lecture 12. That's Infection Basics, it's called. We actually did a mini lecture on it here. But here, let's get to transmission. Where is it? Yep. Yes, these are shedding. Droplets, skin lesions, blood, urine, semen, feces. But blood supply, IV drug use, insect vectors, germline, vertical, mother to baby. Those don't need to be shedding. Now, mother to baby can be two ways, right? Can be transplacental, in which case there's no shedding, or it can be perinatal. So the baby is born, there's blood everywhere, and the mother's blood is contaminated with whatever, and it infects the baby. That's shedding. Perinatal is shedding, but not transplacental. So fecal oral still relies on shedding. Yes, definitely. Anything that comes out of you and goes on to someone else is shedding. Yeah. Oh, she's happy for Cheryl. 4 out of 4. Wow, that's great. I'm not a scientist and have never taken a basic biology course. Did you take did you watch any of my lectures? That's cool that you got it. Yeah, very good. Rabies is not shedding either. Right. The dog bites you, just inoculate you with virus directly. HIV, yeah, it's technically not shedding. You're right. You're just putting virus directly into someone, either with a needle or by sexual activity. You're right. You're right. Remember Marcus Welby, MD, from the 70s TV show. He had a son and named him Midas. I didn't know that. Okay, one more thing before we go. A little poem. This is by Langston Hughes. Does anybody know of Langston Hughes? Good poet. This is called I Look at the World. All right, I'll tell you at the end. Langston Hughes, I look at the world. I look at the world from awakening eyes and a black face. And this is what I see. This fenced-off narrow space assigned to me. I look then at the silly walls through dark eyes and a dark face, and this is what I know, that all these walls oppression builds will have to go. I look at my own body with eyes no longer blind, and I see that my own hands can make the world that's in my mind. Then let us hurry, comrades, the road to find. Langston Hughes, I look at the world. It's really beautiful. You know, it's made me think there are two horrible things. The worst human behavior ever. And I think the number one worst is pedophilia, and the number two is racism, although maybe they're both horrible. When you exhibit any of those two, you are just not fit to be a human being. And this poem just reminds me of that. Okay, folks, that is another Office Hours. I have to say that Les has kindly scheduled the next couple of ones over at YouTube already. It's cool. So we have next week's, which is March 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern. And, next week is spring break at Columbia. So I'll use you. I won't be teaching, so I'll just teach you guys. Oh, our moderators tonight. Les Fabi was here, Vanity Nutrition, and Tom Steinberg. Thank you so much for being here and keeping this civilized. Thanks all of you for coming. I appreciate it. I don't take it badly if I argue with you. It's all in good faith, and it's all meant to be productive. But I always express my opinion. Sadism is the worst. I think they're all bad. Sadism, bigotry, racism, and pedophilia. I think they're all horrible. They're all horrible. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here. Come back next week. In the meantime, I hope you're safe and healthy. Enjoy the warm weather if that's what you have. Of course, depending on where you live, you might not have any. But see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.